Hey guys, what's up? B coming from Gen A today. So what I want to do is show you how to replace the trigger hammer assembly on a Smith & Wesson M&P 1522. Now real quick, there's a snap cap in there. You can see that yellow. 4 pounds, 8 ounces. Okay, now there's several options for new triggers in here. Probably, or one of the easiest, cheapest things to do would just be to replace the hammer and trigger spring on that. JEP Enterprises has their yellow 3.5 pound spring kit, and I just looked on Midway a second ago, and that's $10.50 to get that spring kit, and that will potentially drop the weight down on your trigger. It's not going to change the actual pull of it, but it will reduce the weight potentially. That's $10.50, pretty cheap. I've got this Palmetto State Enhanced Polished Fire Control Group. This cost me $30, and I'm planning on putting this in one of my ARs. I could have put it in there. Recently, I picked up a couple of these CMC Lantac ECT1s. This is the flat blade trigger. Got a good deal on this, and appreciate the guys giving me some intel on that. This was at Primary Arms. They had them on sale for $89.99, where this is normally about a $210 trigger. So I grabbed a couple of these. Very sweet triggers. And this is the one that I'm going to put in there today. Alright, first of all, so obviously before you do anything with this, make sure your chamber is empty. And then we're just going to separate the lower and upper. So we need to take the old hammer and trigger out. And it's easy. All we have to do is just push these two pins out. And if you have a punch or something, we're just going to push them out. Pretty simple. Okay, so we've kind of got those pushed out a little ways. Now make sure you hang on to this hammer because it's going to want to fly off. Pull that out. Okay, now your trigger, and you're going to have your the little spring in there, so be careful of that. Now, with my 1522, with the trigger, I can pull this out with the safety still in and not doing anything to the safety. But whenever I go to put in this other trigger, it will not fit in there. So we do have to take this safety out to be able to fit this CMC trigger into here. Now to get the safety out, we're going to have to loosen the pistol grip. And I've already put on this Magpul grip, but inside of there is a 3/16 that I'm going to have to use to get that bolt out. And we're not going to back it out all the way, but we're going to back it out far enough to get the spring loosened off of this detent that goes up to the safety here. Now, this is probably the most important thing to remember when you're doing this. This is a polymer lower, and like these two pins that I just pulled out, those are metal, and this screw that I'm going to have to back out a little bit here to get this out is a metal screw, and so you're putting metal pieces into polymer. And so if there's ever going to be a fight between metal and polymer, the metal's always going to win. So especially with this, whenever you're taking this screw out, in and out, make sure you're taking it in and out as squarely as possible. Because if you cross thread it, this is done. I mean, you strip it out, and then there's no way to fix that besides sending it into Smith & Wesson. So just be careful. That's the most important thing to remember, is you're putting metal pieces into a polymer lower. Okay, and you can see right there about 0.988, so real close to 99/100ths at the pin holes. Okay, so when you take this apart, you're going to have your hammer spring, you're going to have your trigger spring, you're going to have this little spring, and you're going to have your disconnector, and then you're going to have the two pins to hold that in. Okay, now the pin from the 1522 is about 0.896. I saw that officially it's supposed to be 0.895, but it's somewhere around there, 0.896, 895. Alright, so I'm going to put in the CMC Lantac ECT1. Alright, I'm going to cock this thing back and be real careful not to pull the trigger. And of course, this is light. I've already weighed it, and it's right at 3 pounds, so be careful because it won't take much to set that thing off. But I'm going to take this and I'm going to set it in there, and that safety is not going to let me put this thing in there, so I'm going to have to get that out of the way. Alright, so I'm taking my 3/16. I'm going to back this off. Now on a 1522, there's two springs that you have to pay attention for, whereas on a standard AR-15, there's only one spring. Okay. And what I'm really worried about is this spring getting all the tension off, and you can see now there's slack in it. And so that detent, actually there's probably a little bit too much slack, but it won't let it fall out from there. But there's a little detent up in there, basically looks like a little bullet that goes up and holds this in place. And so now I can push this out, just like that. Now I can take this trigger and drop it in there. Of course, again, I'm being careful not to drop that trigger. Now, this trigger came with its own anti-rotation pins, and I'm going to use these. K&S makes anti-rotation pins specifically for 1522. So if you're interested in that, you can get that. And I saw it just a little bit ago before I did this. It was about $27 for that kit. But these pins are short enough. These pins actually are just about 1/100th of an inch shorter than these other pins, which is good. Or is okay, I guess, that they're shorter. You just want to make sure it's not longer than the width of the receiver, because then you'll have play in your pins. So these are a little bit shorter. I think I'll be all right with that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put my pins in. Those just slide straight in. That's good. So the screws on these anti-walk pins, I've seen some people say Loctite them, some people say don't. So I'm just going to put them in without Loctite right now. If you see them backing off, you may want to put just a tiny drop of blue Loctite on there. So got those in, and I've got them in. They're not super tight yet. I'm gonna wait till I get my safety in and get that on safe before I accidentally drop that. So I just push that in, and you can see right there that detent is falling down. It's right there, and whoa. Okay. Now when I go to put this back together, this spring has a hole to go into above and below. This blue one has a spring to go into above, but not into this pistol grip. Now if you have the official Smith & Wesson 1522 grip, there is a hole there, or there's a little kind of a divot there for it to fit in. But I'm going to have to pay attention to make sure that I don't bend that spring right there. And again, main thing is I'm just being real careful that I'm screwing this in squarely. I'm not stripping anything. All right. Now from here, I would probably tighten these down a little bit, but at the same time, you need to be careful that you don't over tighten those anti-rotation pins, because it'll bind the trigger up and it won't work like it's supposed to. But that feels pretty good. Safe won't turn on. Safety's working. Okay, let's put it back together and weigh it. Just over 3 pounds each time, and of course you get the single stage, crisp, sweet trigger. Oh yeah. Sweet break on that thing. So that's how you replace the trigger on a 1522. Remember, most important thing is when you're putting metal pieces into that polymer, don't strip anything out. So other than that, you should be good to go. Be coming from GNA Today. Thanks for watching.